Buying your first multifamily in New York City? Please, for the love of your bank account, watch this before you sign anything. I'm walking you through the top 10 mistakes that new investors make in this city and how you can avoid them. And trust me, I've seen them all. Let's hop right into it. Starting with number 10. What we want to do is make sure you have an exit strategy. A lot of buyers come into this market and they think, okay, well, this looks like a really good investment. I'm going to flip, I'm going to buy and hold, I might get tenants in there short term, but then they realize there's a lot more laws and lots of strict regulations around being able to invest here in the city. It's not just like any other market. It's its own beast for sure. Most investors think their plan is solid. I'm buying this duplex and I'll either house hack it or I'll rent out the entire thing, or if the market feels right, I might flip it. The problem is people invest based on what they like. Oh, I wouldn't mind walking through the kitchen of the tenants to get through the backyard. Oh, it's not a big deal that the ceilings are only 5 feet tall in here. I'm short anyway. But when it comes down to the reality, most people do care. Buyers that are gonna buy your property long-term in the long run, they don't want a janky layout. Renters do care about that boiler that's been there since Clinton administration. So whether your plan is to house hack, rent short-term, or hold on to it forever, super important to think with that next buyer in mind. Otherwise, you're not investing. You're just hoping. Number 9, failure to really see what it would be like to live there with a tenant in mind. Would you want to live there? Here's some things to stop and think about before purchasing an investment property. How are the neighbors? Are there 12 cars in the driveway? Where's the laundry located? If the plan is to put it in the basement, how does the current electrical allow for that, or will it need updated? Or are you gonna have them go down to a laundromat down the street? What the commute is like. How close are the local train stations and bus stations? How close are the local grocery stores, parks, walkways, dog areas? Really important, bars, restaurants. It's the details like these that add up to overall tenant experience, and they can make or break the home. So the takeaway here is really taking that time to imagine every step of living there as if you were the tenant, and it will go so far for you. All right, that brings us into number 8, not vetting your contractor. The contractor can make or break your deal. Doesn't matter how great those ARV spreadsheets look and all those numbers that you were really optimistic about. The contractor ghosts you or ends up spending 3 times the projected budget, then the profit margin is gone. And yet, I see investors all the time go with a contractor who's the cheapest, or strictly just based on the vibe. Not a great strategy. You need someone who's been vetted with references and has systems in place to make sure their business runs smoothly. Some green flags to look for when you're working with a contractor. You want to see if they are walking you through the scope room by room. How much will this be? What are we thinking for the kitchens, the bathrooms, the bedrooms, closets, outer space? What's the plan in going through room by room? They're gonna flag those red flags before you even close, so that you're not going into the project day of closing and saying, oh shoot, the wall has termites in it, I had no idea. Working in phases and payment tied to those progress points. So paying as you go, but sectioning the project off room by room. Keeping you updated without chasing them down. So you're not gonna have to call them and communicate. Communication is clear, and we have a plan in place to make sure that happens prior to closing. Not so great contractors, here's some red flags to look for. They're gonna be sending you blurry photos and speeding through conversations, maybe asking for an additional advance payment prior to even showing you the work that's been done, or telling you something like, I don't do emails. Those are major red flags. Make sure the property is great, but it's even more important that the contractor who's gonna be doing the work is also great. Which brings me into mistake number 7, the wrong lender. In this market, local matters. Some of the things you wanna be looking for, you need a lender who understands New York City permits, violations, knows how to underwrite smaller multifamilies, has investor loan products such as the DSCR, fix and flip, 2 to 4 unit financing, and can close fast once the offer gets accepted. We love promises, but a lot of these lenders who offer promises they can't keep will end up costing you tens of thousands of dollars in the end of the day. I've had this happen to clients firsthand where they say, well, I want to go with a different lender because they can offer me a 0.0125 lower rate than our preferred lender. Now, I'm not saying you have to go with my lender, but at the same time, that person ended up paying $35,000 at closing to get the rate that they were offered. It's very important that you make sure you know someone who's been in this market. Investors get lured in by flashy low rates from big box lenders, but they don't know New York City and they don't know you. You're gonna be a queue in the line, and every single time you call, frustrated, they're gonna make you sit and wait to talk to someone who has no idea about your specific deal, and that will lead you to a ton of frustration, which leads me into mistake number 6. When we backwards plan, accidents don't happen. Yeah, maybe you got the deal, offer accepted, but can you actually execute it? New York is an attorney state, which means you need a licensed attorney to carry out your entire transaction from offer acceptance to close. Want to make sure you're working with someone, again, who's investor friendly, who's closed deals that are specific to the 5 boroughs and specific to multifamily investing. Of course, I happen to have plenty of recommendations, some a little bit stronger than others, but I'm happy to provide you with those. If you're interested, please go ahead and DM me, my Instagram, or give me a call, set up a Calendly invite. People are super focused on getting under contract, but once they're under contract, have we thought about what's gonna happen next? What is it gonna look like when I own it? What does the actual cash flow start? How long am I gonna be floating the price when the reno is delayed? Do I have a crew ready and permits in motion? The timeline, and if I need a refi, do I have a plan? Back planning means starting at your end goal. What work needs to be done? Who's gonna be doing it? How long is it gonna take? How much is it gonna cost? These are questions you definitely need to have answered before you go under contract. Accepted offer gives you that plenty of time to start that due diligence with your attorney and make sure that all of those pieces of the puzzle are completed while you're getting that contract written, so that when the time comes to submit your earnest money deposit, you have everything lined up. The takeaway here, don't wing it. Back plan for the future. Mistake number 5, which is not taking an inspection seriously. Oftentimes in New York City, we see properties sold as is. What does that mean? Especially with multifamily properties, as is where you're not getting anything from the seller, the bank, lots of times on a foreclosure or a real estate owned property. They're not going to be doing anything to get the tenants out, to change any litigations, open violations on the HPV or the DOB. That's all on you. Does that mean we should skip an inspection? Absolutely not. Inspection is always super important, whether you're going with a new development all the way down to a multifamily tear down. You want to see what you're getting yourself into. Take this time and spend that $500 to $800 to get someone who's licensed and professional in there to do a deep dive into what's going to actually cost you to get this property up to where you want to be. If you're going with a new development, of course it's going to be a little bit less, but a lot of times errors are made in new developments. People are cutting corners where you wouldn't even imagine because they want to get the job done, and the contractors and developers on those projects have a timeline as well. So whether you're getting new or buying something super old, always get that inspection. It might not make a difference whether you're able to get more concessions from the seller, but it is going to give you an idea of what is needed to be done before you start the project or sign on a contract. Definitely recommend. So the way it works in New York is the offer is accepted, and within 14 days, I highly recommend to all my clients that they get that inspection done. The sooner the better. Pay that money. It's worth it in spades. If you get yourself into a project that's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars and you were unaware that it has an entire termite problem and it will need to be gutted, when we went in with the contractor thinking it just needs some minor updates to the kitchens and baths, you're gonna be in a major problem. Always go with that inspection. Always, always, always. It's worth the $500 to $800 investment. And listen, I'm not being dramatic. These things happen all the time to buyers who don't have the right team. Luckily for you, you came across this video and you can work with my team. We help investors like you every day in the city navigate all of these different pieces, get the right team together that they feel confident going into the deal. And communication is key. We make sure that you feel completely in the loop every step of the way, rather than in the dark and feeling like I have to follow up with my agent, I have to follow up with the attorney, the contractor, the expediter, the architect, the engineer. If you're interested, set up a call with me. Follow me on Insta at Lizzztings, always 3 Z's, super extra, honey. And we can go from there. Mistake number 4 is not taking due diligence seriously. A lot of times people don't know that much about what the due diligence stage of the process is. In a lot of other cities, and I would know because I used to work in Denver, Colorado, we didn't have the due diligence period. We didn't call it that. So there were strict dates for each part of the contract, and it was super easy to follow. The inspection had to happen by this date. The appraisal had to happen by this date. Not the case here. So once your offer gets accepted, it's the due diligence period. That means the attorneys, the lender, myself, and you are going to go into a deep dive with the property. We're going to look for any open violations and litigation, any tenants that are not documented that are staying in the property, maybe illegally but not paying, maybe they're not on a lease. We want to find out all the possible information before we sign a contract and send our earnest money deposit. All of this happens prior to then. That's what the due diligence period is for. As I mentioned in mistake number 5, not taking the inspection seriously, that plays right into the due diligence. It's really important that the inspection is a piece of that due diligence that's done so that you can back out of a property without having to pay anything other than your inspector. At this time, no harm, no foul. Yes, it might be $500 to $800 out of pocket, but it saved you thousands in the long run if that property was not worth it. Other parts of due diligence include open DOB violations that never got cleared, active litigation or HPD suits, non-paying or unregistered tenants, layouts that don't match the C of O. So this is a big one. The layouts that don't match the C of O, lots of times properties are mislisted here. It's super confusing. Let's say it's a townhome that used to be a family of 5, maybe 8 kids sometimes, and they own the entire property as a single family residence. Lots of people don't have that many kids nowadays, so they're gonna break it into a 2 to 3 to 4 even families, and some of those processes have been done legally, other expansion projects, or maybe different types of ways of making the property legal were not done according to the laws required in the state of New York. The attorney you use needs to be investor savvy and understand NYC multifamilies in order to be able to track these and identify when that's happening. We look at these day in and day out for years, so we're very familiar. And not even just me, I know the basics, but the lawyers are going to give us the real rundown on every litigation that's involved in the properties and any type of codes that are incorrect. If we have a violation we come across, we're able to know how to handle it accordingly. You don't need to be the expert in a DOB violation, but you do need to hire the team that can handle it for you. So this ties into number 3, which is not reading the fine print. Even though you're hiring a team that's going to handle the majority of those 4 pieces for you, you want to be able to understand what's going on with your property. It's a huge investment, so just don't take that step that, oh, I have experts working for me, so I'm going to skip over it. Still very important that you take the time to read about your property and your investment so that when you are the owner and you are the landlord, you're able to know exactly what's going on ins and outs. Some of the things you want to make sure you're looking for: the units that aren't legalized, rent stabilized units that you're not able to raise rent on, which can happen every now and then, even with a small multifamily with 2 to 4 units. Making sure we're double checking those documents to make sure that there's no issues with rent stabilization ahead of time. Permits that were never closed out or not properly permitted, not properly applying for a permit. Layouts that don't match the C of O. The certificate of occupancy is a C of O. You want to make sure that anything that's on the property is taken care of and that you understand it. And if you have any of those questions, we're happy to get on a call and go through those with you. The violations that are on the property, they follow you. So this is really important. All of the violations that you might see on a property, You say, oh, when it closes, then the seller can have to handle that. No, the property comes with those violations. So you, as the new owner, takes those on. Isn't that nice? Make sure you know what you're taking on. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Some of these violations have to do with mice and insects that were from a long time ago and maybe they were closed. Some of them are tax violations that have been paid, but the documents are not all the way up to file to current, so that's why it looks like those are still outstanding. That's why we take the time to go through this process. This is where the New York City investing gets a little hairy and scary, but it's not scary if you have the right people working with you. Mistake number 2 is not budgeting properly. So like we discussed through a lot of this video, there's so many costs that are hidden that you might not be prepared for. So we wanna have those reserves. Most of the time, the project is gonna cost more than you anticipate. So you need to be conservative with your numbers, running ARV comps that are gonna be a little bit less than what you would expect so that you have that cushion, and making sure you're taking those pieces of the puzzle into account when you're factoring in your budget. And I'm not just talking from the contract to close, but all the way through the construction and all the way through until you have those tenants. There's even costs that come once you have tenants and how you're going to handle those as the landlord. Here's some of the things that people forget to plan for. Holding costs while you're renovating. Property taxes, utilities, and insurance. Even when it's vacant, the property still needs to run, so you're going to be still paying those holding costs. Prize upgrades that are required by the DOB. Fire-rated doors come to mind. Permit filing fees and architectural plans. Very important. A lot of times those are the ones that are not paid or not properly filed, and that's where you come into those headaches. MCI assessments and HPD violations fines, and higher labor and material costs that you will find anywhere else. And if the building is tenant occupied, you're going to be budgeting for quite a few other things. I'm talking legal fees, buyouts, and maybe months of lost income. I've seen plenty of flips and buyouts here before, but that's not because the numbers were bad. It's because the investor didn't know all the numbers they needed. A lot of investors go into this thinking, all that matters is the purchase price and those rent-out costs. But that's just scratching the surface here in New York City, honey. And that's why smart investors over budget and are really conservative on those numbers so that they have that cushion and reserves just in case. And most of the time, just in case is always the case. Okay, we've made it. We're at the last mistake that people make in New York City when they are investing for the first time. Can you guess what it is? That's right. Mistake number 1 is not hiring the right agent. So yeah, sure, you could get a cheerleader. I love being the cheerleader on the side as far as working with first-time home buyers, and I've done a lot of that in the past. But it's really important in New York that you work with someone who can close on a multifamily investment property. We're not looking for someone who's just gonna say yes and make it happen and give you what you want to hear. You need the truth about tenants, about permits, about violations, and making sure you have those people on your team that are going to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. It is not easy to buy here, but if you have the right team on your side, then you will feel confident going into each decision. And even when you don't, we're here to help you figure out how we can get you to that point. And in New York City, of course, it's not a smart idea to not hire an agent. Because let's be honest, we all know this market is not like anywhere else. And if your investor agent does not know the math around investing analysis and what the DOB violations look like, MCI assessments, zoning laws, tenant laws, you name it, there's so much that goes into it. You need to work with someone who knows this stuff inside and out and has the team, if they don't know, to back them up and make sure that you get what you need. With our team, we have a network of people that would be able to help you out. We'd love to see if we're a good fit. Please feel free to reach out through the comments in the chat, hit me up on Instagram through a DM, or set up a time to call and speak to one of our members of our team through my calendar. It's been a pleasure to talk you through the 10 mistakes investors make so that you're not one of them here in New York City. Thank you all.